بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وأفضل الصلوات وأتم التسليم على الحبيب المصطفى وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. تحية طيبة وعاطرة لكل الحاضرين. سلام سجاترا كما رسموا. It's my pleasure and my honor to be presenting here to all the wonderful participants and organizers from the University Islam Al-Shafi'iyya. And I welcome all the organizers from the university and, of course, from our dear strategic partners, Research Synergy Foundations. It is my honor to speak to all of you today about something that is near and dear to my heart. And it is actually the reason that we started Maqasid Institute is to activate this multidisciplinarity and the synergy between what we are consider as traditional Islamic sciences and the widening of these Islamic sciences to encompass everything. And actually, the goal is for us at the Maqasid Institute is to go beyond that and then to talk about a world in which divine guidance drives life, learning, and leadership. And within this context, what we do at the Maqasid Institute is to provide this revelation centric approach, which we call Maqasid methodology, which I will touch on, fresh ideas to redefine the whole topic and the discussion, because that is the key to think fresh and to provide really a better solution than what exists today. And we definitely work towards developing our expert transdisciplinary research and advisory services. And we do all that through a global network of researchers, scientists, and activists like all of you here. The ultimate goal is to address Muslims and humanity's current global challenges, because these challenges are not separate from each other. What affects Muslims affects the rest of the world, and vice versa. For today, my focus is to talk about how important is synergy, the synergy that we're talking about for contemporary Islamic scholarship and studies. And very important part of this is that we need to move beyond just focus on ahkam and legalism and go beyond simple compliance. These are very important. They provide the floor that we have to establish to know where we are, to know what is the halal and the haram. That is very important. But we need to rise to the next level, which is what about if we study and about the maqasid al-wahy, which are more like the ceiling or what we aspire to after we establish the floor and that grounding. To do so, we need to adopt a complex system thinking and a maqasid research methodology, in my humble opinion. And finally, true synergy must be grounded in what we call fiqh al-waqi' and al-fiqh al-waqi'i. These two needs to come together to ultimately achieve our goal of Islah, which is to make the world around us better and to leave it better than it was yesterday, as our wonderfully was discussed. We have this positive attitude that today is better than yesterday and tomorrow is better than today, with full trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy and rahmah. To move on, one of the main challenges to go forward is that obviously this state of fragmentation and taqlid, that we have to understand that taqlid is valid in certain areas of our consciousness and of our daily life as Muslims, especially when it comes to our ibadat and most of the stuff that has been established already, and there are no more discussions over it, then we can definitely apply taqlid there. But it is obvious when we are dealing with new challenges, the challenges of today, it makes it incredibly challenging and hard to go back to evidence and to precedents that are far removed from what we are discussing today. So if we constantly refer to replacing a nose with a golden nose or replacing teeth with wooden teeth at some time on and talking about al-musla. When we talk about organ transplants, um, these examples are relevant from ahkam point of view, from legalism point of view, but it is not really relevant from a medical point of view, which is really the core subject matter here when it comes to organ transplantation. The same kind of idea and challenge happens and replicate itself in many different areas. So, so in many instances, this taqlid definitely can create a problem. And it is the taqlid here saying that we are talking about is blind imitation. We're talking about now critical evaluation and valuation of our heritage because there is definitely a massive amount of incredibly valuable scholarship that we can get from this background. And here comes, if we are talking about traditional maqasid al-sharia, this is also an incredibly useful tool. And it is not necessarily useful to go into the debate whether it is part of usul al-fiqh or separate from usul al-fiqh. What is most important here, and I believe that was the spirit of Imam Hujjatullah al-Ghazali, introducing this concept is trying to make sure that the ahkam at the end, sharia at the end of the day, is in line with the spirit of the sharia. So maqasid al-sharia is very important, whether the five or six, and they're very important and do a very important job here. But indeed, they have a limited scope to those who are focused only on ahkam. So we need a holistic perspective, which is crucial for contemporary understanding. This holistic, so now the taqlid is only one of five major challenges that we have identified as the maqasid al-sharia. The other ones come either from some also traditional practices or come from secular modernity. It comes from the way actually Islam is being taught in many universities. It is actually taught in a fragmented, disconnected in a fashion so that you have a person specialized in hadith, but have very little knowledge about the Quran al-Kareem and tafsir and so on and so forth. And that really, or aqidah or the other parts of Islam. And this is incredibly problematic beside the other challenges that comes with postmodern analysis and so on and so forth. So then what we are proposing here to bring about this synergy and this transdisciplinarity is introducing this concept of maqasid al-wahi. So maqasid al-wahi provides authenticity and firm ground because we're still talking that our starting point has to be al-wahi. Al-wahi, whether it is the al-maktub, it is of course the Quran al-Kareem and the Sunnah al-Nabawiyya shariha wa al-Quran al-Kareem, but then it combined with this book of creation, al-jam'u bayna al-qira'atayn. So this is something that has been talked about for a long time, but was not activated properly. I've heard about al-jam'u bayna al-qira'atayn for about maybe now 40 years. And then, but continued to be a high-level concept. What we needed to is to activate this concept and find a methodology or a process to activate it. So this, to move from that high-level concept, we introduce these terms like fiqh al-waqi, which is we have to understand reality and affairs on the ground. Just like if you're dealing with kafalatul yatim and riayatul aitam, an important question is that have you actually been to an orphanage? Have you actually spent days and weeks and months actually understanding the reality of what's going on, how children come to this place, why do they come to this place, how they are treated, what is their mental well-being, their educational well-being, their health well-being, what happens to them later on in their life? How do they look back at their experiences? What worked? What did not work? So there's all of this fiqh al-waqi we call. And many times we have scholars who are scholars and academics and researchers who are completely disconnected from reality, even though they might be uh, uh, called experts in this area or they have published papers, but they actually have no idea about the reality on the ground. And from this reality, then we come to al-fiqh al-waqi, which is realistic solutions for today and then better solutions for tomorrow, and then to fulfill divine command towards continuous improvement or islah. That's the goal here. So Maqasid in action, what we have been working on at the Maqasid Institute, one is like the important initiative called Reading the Book of Nature, which is really simply putting people in settings where they are sitting in natural settings, in forests or walk around in nature, and then and learn to still their thoughts, to be in tune, in harmony with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, to observe, to see as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala continuously asks us and commands us to do in the Quran al-Kareem. And from there, you start seeing what he called these dimensions of Jalal and Jamal, dimensions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's glory and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's beauty and compassion and rahmah manifest themselves in front of them in this nature. But we live in a world where we only look through at screens day and night, and we really do not, we are not in touch with nature. But once we start getting over this problem and start connecting with nature, then we can see that nature also means sociology, whether it is sociology of animals or sociology of human interaction with animals. We can see biology, chemistry, physics, all working together in synergy, in a multidisciplinary fashion. So then we know that this whole topic that we're talking about today and the topic of this conference, it manifests itself in a natural way. This is هذه طبيعة خلق الله سبحانه وتعالى. It is by its nature, it is phenomena based and it is transdisciplinary to begin with. And the Quran al-Karim, then when you look at the Quran al-Karim, it's beautifully almost continuously present any topic by first linking the creation of heaven and earth to our affairs on earth, to the rivers, to the mountains, to just simply the ground that we walk on, and remind us that there is really a connection and and harmony between all of Allah's creations. And then the only thing that human beings need to get on with the program to live in harmony with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's creation, which is only achieved by linking it with Al-Quran al-Kareem and the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The other important program is Rethinking Economics and Finance program. And in this program, we link microeconomic thinking of how different individuals interact with each other. For example, if you're talking about the village settings, or a market settings, everything there is, at the end of the day, we are individuals. So, and we have to understand the dynamic of that interaction. But then as a group, there's also dynamic, which is macroeconomic dynamic. But then this dynamic is not only governed by self-interest, but is governed by aspiration that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put in all of us by fitrah and by a social adab, contract of adab. It is not only legalistic, but it is just this mutual interdependence and spirit of ihsan that drive us. So this is now leading us to really rethink the whole structure of economic thinking. That's what we call rethinking economics and finance. And beyond that, we are developing micromasters and full master programs in economics, psychology, environment, education. In this conference, we have attracted my attention at least two papers that seems to really working very hard and getting close and trying to deal with the challenges of fiqh al-waqi or fiqh al-waqi, like examining religious authority crisis with AI implications. And AI implications is one of the greatest fitness that humanity is facing today. So I really commend this paper for doing this. And this was the topic of my latest paper and discussion at the International Fiqh Academy is what is the right usage of AI in the area of Islamic studies. And then there's this other paper which analyzing the practical halal tourism ecosystem, and the emphasis here is on ecosystem. And if we understand this as an ecosystem and understand and really it's very important then to redefine what is tourism, what is halal, and how this tourism can actually make us not just to pass time and to relax, but actually renew our faith and increase our, you know, deepen our, commitment and engagement with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom when we go on these vacations. So here, Maqasid Institute, what we are offering here is that the synergy through the combined reading of Kitab al-Wahi wa Kitab al-Kawn, or Book of Revelation and Book of Creation, to reach this integrated understanding and holistic knowledge. So we are offering this comprehensive research framework that we call Maqasid Research Methodology. We utilize transdisciplinary Maqasid approach for teaching and focus on complex system thinking for holistic study and authentic grounding and dual reading of the book. So here what I say about the Maqasid methodology, it focuses on, at the end of the day, it is we are seeking divine guidance through a holistic and coherent comprehension of this wahi to recognize and connect Allah's ayat and signs all around us. Yes, we need a methodology. That's one of the first things we did when we started Maqasid Institute. We discovered that number one challenge is that there's no clear methodology, no clear research methodology. Just simply invoking al-Maqasid al-Khamsa or one of them or a combination of them is not a methodology. That's why it becomes apologism. I just want to justify something, so I just slap one of the Maqasid on it and then, okay, here you go. This is what I'm trying to what I'm trying to support is justified by one of these maqasid. This is really apologism, and it is not what we're calling for at the Maqasid Institute. And we want to establish a methodology and a group of expertise that can govern and protect the wahi from these abuses. The methodology uses 7 elements to produce complex thinking, which uses universal laws or al-ahkam. So al-maqasid al-ahkam, which the traditional part, is one of 7 elements in this methodology. Beside that, then we talk about universal laws, which is Sunan Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the groups or the fi'ats that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talk about, and then the proofs, the concepts, objectives, and evaluation. These are all 7 elements included in this methodology that we are producing. I would encourage you, of course, to please read the book, and I will put in the comments section a link to the book so you can read it for yourself. I think currently there is an Indonesian copy or translation of the book available. And we also have on our website a full course explaining this book and this methodology. And I would also like to invite you to be part of what we call the Global Maqasid Network. And we have different levels of membership that, inshallah, one of them suits you. But we start with one level, and then as you contribute, you can rise. And I invite you to communicate with me. You have my email right there, and I'm here at your service. Alhamdulillah. And then this is the end of my presentation. Again, thank you for your attention. And if I'm available, if there's any time for question and answer, I'm happy to interact with you.
All right. Jazakallahu khairan, Dr. Zaid, for giving a very comprehensive materials and also information regarding the Maqasid, and then also the Maqasid al-Wahi itself, the methodology and everything. And now, actually, Dr. Zaid, we have 2 questions right now, and I think it's going to be more questions. All right, so let me address the first questions. Okay. This
Yeah.
one is coming from Indonesia, from Ahmad
Yes.
Mahmudi. So the question is, what are the strengths and challenges of applying a transdisciplinary research framework based on the new Maqasid in analyzing contemporary social phenomenon?
No. No. So the strength is that once you actually trust yourself to read the Quran al-Karim for yourself with this intentionality, with this focus on actually contributing and really asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for his mercy and support, then and you go to the Quran with a purpose, the whole relationship changes between you and the Quran al-Karim, and you start seeing this miraculous world opens up. I always say that uh, in almost every situation when I'm dealing with any challenge or trying to analyze any a new phenomena or issue, I start with al-Fatiha, and almost inevitably I'll find the key to my answer in Surah al-Fatiha, and then the rest of it opens up in the rest of the Quran al-Karim. So this is an incredible benefit and power of adopting this maqasid methodology approach, and trying to link maqasid al-wahy with that in terms of maqasid al-wahy. So the key thing here that I would like to communicate to all of you is that the Quran al-Karim, every single ayah in the Quran al-Karim and the Quran al-Karim as a whole, as it's can share with you and can open to you maqasid and objectives and hikmah and guidance in line with your experience, your background, and the pain you're carrying to it. So, one thing that you really have to avoid thinking like somebody else will tell me what is the maqasid here. Yes, you can listen to and you can benefit from the wisdom of other people, but at the end of the day, you really have to develop this skill yourself. How do you develop this skill? I mean, obviously, like we say that take the course, learn, but then you have to practice. One of the things that the saddest thing I discover time and again is that we barely read the Quran Al-Karim. And by that, I don't mean just simply finishing a word quickly like we do in Ramadan and without actually contemplating anything. But when you actually pay attention to the Quran Kareem and read it with a purpose. You see, imagine if you booked an appointment with your professor, and you don't have an agenda. You just walked in. How beneficial is your interaction with that professor or that scholar? Versus if you have actually a pain in your mind, your research question, and bring it. So that is the powerful thing. I'll tell you recently, and this week, as I was contemplating pages of Quran al-Kareem from Surah Al-Nahl, which talks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings and rizq. One thing I was able to challenge in my previous background in economic training is the tragedy of the commons. That whole concept, and this is kind of and this I'm addressing another one of the questions that how do you deal with secularism? So this is coming from basic economic training. We all are brainwashed to think in terms like in a tragedy of the commons. Everything must be under private ownership. Somebody must own it because that comes from that British and the European experience because they have always feudal lords who own something. So everything is under some, and it's very convenient because if everything is owned by somebody or something, by a corporation, by a rich person, usually the rich and powerful are going to own everything. And now, instead of trusting our fellow human beings, our fellow village members or city or neighbors and so on and so forth, I'm trusting I'm trusting this incredibly rich person, the billionaires, to decide what is good for me. And inevitably, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala so tells us that these people will be gripped by thriftiness and stinginess. They don't want to share the ni'mah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when they don't do that, then the cycle of rizq and infaq breaks down, and we end up in the situation in which we are in today. to answer one of the other questions here, how not to fall in secular methodology approach. One of the key steps in the Maqasid methodology, and there are 5 steps, is to examine every concept we learn from our mainstream, or like the way sciences are presented today, and challenge every single one of these concepts. So, for example, if you're talking about intellectual property rights, that comes again from a mentality that إنما أوتيته على علم عندي. Oh, because I have my own, this is on my own knowledge, and that's why I own it. I can benefit from it. I can profit from it, so on and so forth. When it is all simply a rizq from Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and it is by sharing this rizq, and that's the whole thing. The spirit of infaq in the month of Ramadan that is upon us is that negates this concept. Our basic thing is that to share knowledge, share this, and then always the threat, the worldview, the aqidah that is secularism bring to us is that, oh, if you do not have intellectual property rights, then we're not going to have progress. We're not going to have scientific progress. But this is again, it is talbisu iblis. This is like really the confusion that shaitan and the secularism bring into our mind and make us believe it. I mean, and brainwash us into accepting this structure of interactions and social contract. But this is what really is creating massive problem, because of this intellectual property rights, all these pharma companies receive billions of dollars and make billions of dollars in profit, and they don't want to share medicine with the people who need it, whether they die or not. So it is one of the number one enemy of the Maqasid methodology, and Maqasid al-Wahy is secularism. That is our number one enemy, and that's the one that we battle with every single day. But we want to go beyond it, because the biggest challenge is that if we simply respond to the problems which this decadent Western civilization produce every single day, this civilization produces problems by the second. And then sometimes the challenge for majal fiqhi is that we're always sitting answering these problems and these fasad one question at a time. And so this is endless. We're never going to be able to catch up with it. Instead of doing that, we need to understand our Quran Kareem and present holistic solutions. Let me know if specific question I need to address, because mashallah, there's a bunch of them here.
Yeah, so actually it's already addressing also 2 questions at the same time, Dr. Zaid, in the Zoom chat box. But unfortunately, we have to moving on to our next agenda, since we still have the other keynote speakers and academic presentation sessions. However, brother, we will pass the questions, and we do hope that you can answer it later on, and then we will post it in our community platform so everyone can see. And if anyone interested to study further, so we also encourage to join the Maqasid Global Network itself. MashaAllah. Thank you so much. Jazakallahu khairan, our brother, Dr. Zaid Barzinji. All right, so now it's the time for the appreciation moments. So as the recognition and also the appreciation from the ICISMA committee, we would like to give this special token of appreciations to our keynote speaker, Dr. Zaid Barzinji, as the president of the Maqasid Institute. So in this occasion, we would like to welcome Dr. Badrah Uyuni from Universitas Islam Syafiyah to give this token of appreciation. Please welcome Dr. Badrah.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Santi Rahmawati. Hello, our Honorable Dr. Zaid Barzinji, the President of the Maqasid Institute. Thank you so much for your profound exposition on Sharia and Maqasid. Please, on behalf of Universitas Islam Syafiyah and Research Synergy Foundation, we extend our deepest gratitude for your distinguished presence and invaluable contribution as a keynote speaker at the International Conference on the Synergy of Islamic and Multidisciplinary Approaches, or ICISMA. The contemporary development of Maqasid Sharia has moved beyond its classical focus on the 5 essential protection toward a dynamic and integrative framework for addressing modern challenges, as you said. It now functions as a methodological foundation for contemporary ijtihad, engaging fields such as governance, Islamic finance, bioethics, human rights, and environmental policy. In modern scholarship, Maqasid serves not only as a tool of legal interpretation, but as an ethical and epistemological framework that advances substantive justice, public welfare or maslahah, and sustainable civilizational development. Your proposed exposition on Sharia and Maqasid has enriched our intellectual discourse and provided a meaningful framework for advancing Islamic scholarship in a multidisciplinary context. The depth, clarity, and vision you articulated will undoubtedly strengthen contemporary Islamic thought and inspire further academic development grounded in Maqasid-based approaches. As a token of our sincere appreciation, please accept this small gesture as a symbol of our respect and gratitude for your outstanding contribution. Thank you for sharing your knowledge, wisdom, and scholarly leadership with us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Jazakumullah khair.